The sun rises over black volcanic rock, and the first marine iguanas begin to stir. They've spent the night pressed together in a pile, dozens of bodies stacked for warmth. Now they peel apart, one by one, and spread across the lava to soak in the heat. One female moves slower than the rest. Salt crusts around her nostrils from a recent dive. Ticks cluster along her neck, tucked into the folds behind her jaw, hidden in the ridge above her eyes. She scrapes her head against a rock. It does nothing. Her front leg cannot reach her own neck. Her jaw cannot reach her own back. She settles, stiff, waiting. Then, a shadow crosses the rock. Small. Fast. A ground finch drops down a few feet away, hopping sideways, watching. The iguana does not flinch. She lifts her chin. Her front legs press slightly upward, raising her body an inch off the stone. It is barely a movement. It is enough. The finch understands the signal. It hops closer. Small beside a giant, yet perfectly at home. The finch lands on the iguana's neck first. Its feet are barely the size of the ticks it has come to find. It tilts its head, one eye scanning the skin folds below the jaw. Then the first peck. A tick dislodged, gone. Then another. Then another. The finch works with total focus, its small beak parting the scaled folds like fingers through fabric. Around the jawline, under the chin, into the loose skin behind the ear openings, where blood-fed parasites swell fat and slow. One tick, then the next. The rhythm is steady, unhurried, precise. The iguana's eyes begin to close. Not fully, just enough. The finch moves higher, onto the ridge above the eyes, where the skin folds are tightest. It works its beak into each crease, checking, then moving on. A tick clings just above the eyelid. The finch takes it in one motion. The iguana does not blink. From the eye ridge, the finch drops down along the side of the skull, tracing the bony plates that run toward the neck. Ticks gather here too, wedged where scale meets scale. One by one, they disappear. Then the finch moves onto the dorsal spines, the jagged row running down the iguana's back like a low, uneven fence. It hops between each spine, checking the base of everyone, where skin folds thick and dark. Ticks hide low, pressed against the body, sheltered from wind and sun. The finch pecks along the base of each spine. Left side, right side, one row at a time. Nearby, another iguana shifts on the rock, and a second finch lands on its back without hesitation. The two birds work in parallel now, small, dark shapes moving across two gray giants, both scenes playing out at once beneath the climbing sun. A Sally Lightfoot crab picks its way across the rocks below, ignored by both birds and both iguanas. Waves break against the lava further out, throwing spray into the air. The whole coastline moves in its own slow rhythm, birds circling overhead, water rising and falling against black stone, heat shimmering up from the rock already. The first finch moves down from the spines toward the tail, where the skin thins and wrinkles gather in loose folds. Ticks cluster here in numbers, feeding where the iguana's own defenses cannot reach. The finch works quickly through this section, pecking, pulling, swallowing, pecking again. One drink of blood inside each tick, one small meal for the bird. Down along the tail, the finch checks each fold in sequence, moving toward the base of the hind legs. Between the toes, ticks wedge into the smallest gaps, where clawed feet meet rock 100 times a day. The finch balances on one foot, using its beak to part the iguana's toes, checking each one. The iguana's breathing has slowed to something long and even. Its body has gone fully still, aside from the occasional twitch when a tick is pulled from somewhere especially tender. Above the belly, other iguanas nearby remain untouched, waiting their turn, watching without moving. Some raise their heads slightly when a finch passes close, offering the same posture, the same invitation. Not all get chosen. Not yet. The first finch finishes the hind legs and returns briefly to the neck, checking for anything missed. It finds one more tick, tucked deep against the throat, and takes it. Then it stops. It has had enough. It hops off the iguana's back and onto the open rock, moving toward the next iguana in the row. The iguana it leaves behind stays still for a long moment. Only then does she lower her body flat against the warm stone again. But this is not simple charity, and it was never meant to be. The finch does not clean because it cares. It cleans because a tick, swollen with blood, is food. Every peck along the iguana's body is a meal, not a favor. The iguana benefits, but only as a side effect of the bird's hunger. Researchers who have studied these birds up close describe the same instinct playing out in different, more extreme forms elsewhere in the islands. On Wolf Island, far to the north, a close relative of these same ground finches has taken the behavior further. Instead of waiting for a tick, it pecks directly into the base of a seabird's growing feathers, drawing blood straight from the source. Scientists call it the vampire finch, and its habit likely began the same way as a bird cleaning parasites from a much larger animal before scarcity on a dry, resource-poor island pushed the behavior past parasite eating and into something closer to bloodletting. Nature rarely deals in simple answers. It deals in survival. The relationship between finch and iguana holds together because it benefits both sides most of the time. But it is not a bond of gratitude. It is not built on affection. It survives because the outcome for each animal, most days, is better than the alternative. The iguana loses a coat of biting parasites. The finch gains an easy meal it does not have to search for on the ground. Just trust built through a strange partnership, worn into habit across generations. Even the iguana's posture, the small lift of the body that invites the bird in, is not a gesture of thanks. It is a learned signal, repeated because it works, refined over time because iguanas who hold still and lift their bodies end up with fewer parasites than those who do not. A tick left too long can do more than irritate. It can weaken an animal already stretched thin from cold ocean water and scarce plant food along the shore. Every tick removed is a small edge in a hard environment. The finch's hunger, in the end, becomes the iguana's relief. Not because the bird intended it, because the outcome lined up. By mid-morning, the sun sits high over the black rock, and the whole colony has spread out to bask. Dozens of iguanas lie motionless, heads raised toward the light, bodies absorbing heat after a cold night in colder water. Finches move between them in short, low flights, dropping onto one back, then another, continuing the same unhurried work. The tide creeps back out, exposing more rock, more room to spread out and warm up. A frigate bird passes overhead, high and distant, uninterested in the small dramas playing out below. The first iguana, cleaned and still, has not moved in some time. Her breathing stays slow and even. Somewhere further down the rocks, the same finch, or one very much like it, lands on another sprawled body, and the process begins again. No ceremony. No signal beyond a lifted head, and a stillness that means yes. Small work, repeated across thousands of bodies, across an entire coastline, every single morning. And tomorrow, when the sun rises again over the same black rock, the same iguanas will gather in the same cold pile before dawn. And the same small birds will come looking, not for kindness, but for breakfast. And somehow, in the space between those two hungers, something like partnership survives.